Today I'm going to show you how to clear the crash data from your SRS airbag computer after a collision. So let's say you've got into a collision and your airbags inside have deployed. So what happens is your airbag computer sets a hard code that cannot be reset with special tools, and it must be replaced. So let's say you've decided to rebuild the car and you've replaced the airbags and all the sensors. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you're good to go, because we're going to need to hack this computer, clear the memory, and replace it with virgin data. With the crash data stored inside of the computer, you can see when I turn the car on that the airbag light stays on solid. That means that the airbag system has been disabled because of crash data stored in the airbag computer. You can see when I try to connect to the SRS computer using Toyota's own TechStream diagnostic software, it does not allow me to connect and it gives me an error. That's because of the hard code stored inside of the airbag computer. Now the airbag computer is located under the dash over here where those yellow connectors are. So you pretty much have to remove the bottom half of the dash in order to get to it. It's always very important when you're working on the airbag system to remove the negative terminal of the battery and wait about 2-3 minutes for the airbag system to discharge. Alright, so I'm going to reach in here and pull out the airbag computer just by the gas pedal, and then disconnect these connectors at the back here, and then I can remove the airbag computer from the vehicle. So this here is the airbag computer removed from the vehicle. I'm going to next disassemble it by removing these 4 screws from the bottom. Now with the 4 screws removed, I can remove this bracket, and then I can remove the actual circuit board for the computer. So this airbag computer is responsible for controlling the restraint system in your car, which includes the airbags, all of the airbag sensors, side airbags, seatbelt pretensioners, etc. So now what we're really interested in here is the EEPROM chip, which stores the crash data information after the vehicle's airbags have been deployed, and that's this 8-pin chip right here. If you zoom in here, it says L56R. So what we're going to do is hook up to this chip here and see if we can erase the crash data from it and reset the airbag computer. In order to connect the EEPROM to my reader, I'm going to solder some hookup wire to it. So this here is the EEPROM reader that I'm going to use to connect my EEPROM chip to the serial port on my state-of-the-art Pentium 4 computer so I can read the information. We've got a couple of lines here that come off from the serial port, and they go through some 4.7k ohm resistors, and then they run in parallel here to these 5-volt Zener diodes, and then it goes out to the chip. Over here on this side we've got pins 8 and pins 5 that go to 5 volts and ground respectively. Alright, so this here is my setup. This is the EEPROM reader with all the little components on it and that little circuit. And it's got the wires that lead over to the serial port. And then I've got these hookup wires that go from the dip socket on the EEPROM reader over to the airbag computer EEPROM. And then over here I've got my 5 volts coming from the power supply of the computer. In order to read and write from this EEPROM in circuit, we're going to need to short out the crystal. So what I've done here is wrapped a little wire around the 2 leads, so that shorts it out. The software I'm using is called PonyProg. It's a serial device programmer. What I'm going to do is first go over to the setup and make sure it's set up to read from the serial port SI-PROG-IO. And then I can click probe to make sure that my device is working okay. Then I can go over to the device menu and select a microwire EEPROM 9356, which is the closest to the L56 EEPROM chip on the airbag computer. Now I can click here where it says read device, and that'll dump all of the contents of the EEPROM chip on the airbag computer onto my screen here for analysis. Now the information stored on this computer here includes things like vehicle RPM, speed, airbag information, as well as seat buckle information at the time of the collision. Now law enforcement officers can decode this and use this against you when investigating a collision when the airbags have deployed. So in addition to my computer with crash data on it, I got my hands on a clean computer that didn't have airbag deployment, and I'm going to copy that data and compare it to the crash data to see what's going on. And this here is the dump from that clean crash computer. You can see there's a number of values that have changed. So you can see in comparison to the virgin dump, I've highlighted off all of the areas where the data has changed. Now I have no real idea of how to decode this, so what I'm going to do is change all of these values so they're equal to what's in the virgin dump, and then write this dump to the crash computer to see if I can clear it. So this here is the virgin dump that I'm going to be writing to the chip. I'm just going to click write and click yes, and it will confirm that the write was successful. So now I can remove the wire that shorts the crystal out. So now I can disconnect my chip from the EEPROM reader. Alright, I've got my wires all bundled up because I'm still debugging. I'm going to go try this in the car. So I'm going to replace this back into the case, and then replace the cover back onto there, and then replace the 4 screws. Alright, so now I've got the cleared airbag computer into the vehicle. I'm going to plug that in and then just tuck that behind the gas pedal there. Now I'm going to replace the battery lug onto the battery. Now I'm going to start the vehicle. And you'll notice that the airbag light goes out after 6 seconds, which indicates that the airbag system is functioning properly. Now using Toyota's TechStream software, you can see I can access the SRS airbag computer. There's no faults found. And there's no diagnostic codes found. Therefore, I know the airbag computer is now working correctly. And that's all it takes to hack the airbag computer on your car. What I'm going to do is edit all of these areas here, and so that it... Mr. Duck.